Hi, folks. It's Paul Ramsey, and today I'm joined by Doug Jones, who is presenting at the 2017 NGH convention. Doug's going to be talking about how to run a successful group hypnosis session. Individuals may not have the money to see you. Group sessions give access. How are you, Doug?
Doing wonderful, Paul. Thanks for having me out today.
Good to have you here. So tell me a little bit about how you got into hypnotism in the first place.
Well, it started, in 1989, I went to see a hypnosis show and got some friends that were up there on stage. And as they were up on stage, they were doing some really funny things. And it kind of intrigued me a little bit. But it really wasn't the funny things that they did. It was a few days later and a few weeks later when I was sitting in class with one of the gentlemen that was shooting baskets, and all of a sudden he came up to me and he showed me a test, and his test grades have gone from like the average 70s up into the 90s, and I was really impressed with that.
Wow.
And so, I kind of thought about it for a moment, and I said, well, what did that have to do with you shooting baskets? And he told me, well, after this hypnotist was there, that he gave us suggestions for things that he wanted afterwards. Didn't think very much of it, kind of went along with my own business and kept going to school. And now all of a sudden I was sitting in class with another young lady that was out there, and she was on the sports team with me. We were both skiers. And she was about 10 in the state and went from 10 to 5. And I was like, well, what's up with that? I said,
Wow.
we do the same workouts. We're doing the same kind of things. I said, how are you getting so much better? She said, well, after that hypnotist was in town, I kind of felt more motivated to go work out. Well, something clicked in my head and I went, hold on, one's doing better in sports, one's doing better in school. These are things that I could use, and all of a sudden, there was no way for me to get it. I mean, most traveling hypnotists, they come in, they do a show, and then they leave. And so now it seemed like here it is. It's a few months later, and I'm wandering around campus. Now this is months later. This is probably 4 or 5 months later, and here's this sign in one of the dorms that says, "Come learn self-hypnosis." Something in my head kind of clicked, and I went, wow, this is cool stuff. I got a friend doing better in sports, one doing better in school. So I grabbed my roommate and me and him headed down, and we got self-hypnotized. We learned how to do self-hypnosis, and I've been doing it since then.
Wow.
And it wasn't until 2012 that I actually made it a full career change for me. So in 12, I actually made the full career change from a different business, because it was just something that I'd been doing for myself as my own improvement, and so I could help other people with it. So I made the full jump in. So,
that's great. So you sort of wised up to the potential at a pretty early stage. Good for you.
well, I just saw how well it was working for myself, and I found out, if I could help somebody else learn a successful tool to program themselves, and we'd all be further ahead.
Right. How do you spend most of your time today, client-wise? What kind of clients are you spending most of your time with?
So most of my clients are weight, stress relief, and sports performance. I do a lot with the athletes still. I love that aspect. Lately, it's been the gymnasts and cheerleaders. So I just happen to end up finding a group of ladies and helped out one of them, and all of a sudden that's the referral thing,
Right.
Paul. So, all of a sudden you do one good thing for one person, and they seem to find you afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So of all the things, so you've got sports performance and weight, and you've got experience in several different areas. Why did you choose this topic? Why is this topic of group hypnosis sessions important to you?
So when I got in the business, I started off part-time like most people do. And when I started off part-time, I was finding it hard to find office space that I could afford in my area, or that I wanted to afford. And what I ended up doing is I actually found a church that would allow me to rent space from them. So now I had this big industrial space in which I had classrooms. And for me, just talking in front of people, I've never had a problem with it. I kind of enjoy getting out there and talking to them. And so I started doing groups. I hardly did any individual sessions because it was such this industrial space. And I it was more like a classroom. And so I would do individuals, but I found that I was doing many more groups than I was doing individuals. And so I did a lot of people. So anywhere from classes of 8 to 25 to 30 people at a time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big,
So,
that's big groups sometimes.
oh, very large groups.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
yeah.
So from doing that, I mean, you were right in the trenches and you're doing it and you're figuring it out. If people come and by the way, you guys, this is Sunday, August 13th at 11 a.m. This is a 1-hour seminar, which is covered by, if you go to the convention, it's covered by your registration fee. You can go and see Doug and learn about what he's got to offer here. Doug, what's the value in spending that hour with you? When you think about, not just conceptually what we're talking about, but what you're going to cover during that hour, where's the value for practitioners in spending this hour with you?
So what people learn from me is I'll teach them and I'll walk them through how to run a successful group session. So the things that I do from the beginning to the end, everything that I'm going to put in there, they'll get a hands-on or at least an idea of what we're going to do. Last year, I actually gave the whole program away at the end of it. So yeah, that's pretty cool, right? So yeah, you'll walk away with some practical knowledge that you can actually use, that you can go out and use this in your area to generate more people. Groups and value that they get from it. What you're going to look for and what you're looking for is to give somebody an opportunity that wouldn't have an opportunity to come see you individually. I've now priced myself up quite considerable compared to my competitors in the area. And to do that, I see value in myself. And so I keep my fees, my consulting fees quite high. And doing that, sometimes people won't pay that to see you the first time. They don't know what they're getting themselves into. They don't know what hypnosis is. They have a fear of it. And so when you do a group session and you bring it down into about a third of the price that you would normally pay to come see me, well, now they can bring their wife, their spouse, their friend, and they can go together. And, as groups of people, we get a lot more calm. It's a nicer way to go through something if you bring your best friend with you, going, well, gee, I don't know who this guy is, and if he hypnotizes me to forget my name or something, what is he going to do? And they don't realize that it's not stage hypnosis, because it's usually the only thing that they've ever been exposed to of hypnosis.
Right.
And so
important. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have to talk about, the myths and misconceptions of what it is, and really get them comfortable and building that rapport that you really need to have with a client before they're actually going to work with you on an individually basis.
Good. That makes sense. I totally think, I totally see the value in that. And I think it's an important thing for us to talk more about as a professional community. I see a lot of hypnotists when they get into the profession posting on like online boards that hypnotists use and stuff like, well, what should I charge for my fee? As if there's one definitive answer to that, right? But the reality is, I love that you're so wise that you've framed this as an issue of access, right? Everybody deserves access, and people can afford access in different ways and at different levels. But that doesn't mean we can't give everyone access somehow. And,
Right.
and I think that the way you're thinking about this is really thoughtful, and I think it's sensible, and I think it's something that hopefully people will, just by maybe seeing this interview, they'll consider shifting some of their own practices, and hopefully they'll come and hang out with you and learn more about this and get an even deeper understanding of how they can create those shifts and give more people access, because the more access we give people, the more people we help, right?
Exactly. And that's what really came down to it. As I was doing it and running it through a church and everything else, I mean, it gave access to a point that some people don't consider it church work, right? I mean, so debunking some of those myths really helped me out. And it really gave me access to a lot of people that really would not have been able to see me for my individual service fee.
Right.
And,
Right.
and, and guess what, Paul? I ended up making much more money than I ever would have charging individual sessions, because now I had multiple people paying my fee. So, if you're charging a third and you get 10 people in your class, well, guess what? You're making more than your hourly fee anyways.
Right.
So,
Right. There's a lot of layers to this
oh
kind of this
yeah,
onion thing, right? There's different business layers to it, and there's different practical, like how you make it work layers, but that's important to think about. And even just the network effect of getting that many people in the room,
right.
and converting some of those people and helping them get results, and the idea that then they're bringing you more people. I mean, there's referral power there. There's straight up just money power there if you've got the right model and you're working it well. There's a lot of different things going on. That's really
So we'll talk about all those things of
good.
how to bring more income in at this session. We'll talk about that, because it is about access, but it's also about keeping yourself in business. I mean,
Right.
you help nobody by going out of business.
Right.
And so the whole idea is that you got to stay in business to make money, to help other people.
Yes.
And so if you're not in business, then you're not helping. And
Yep.
it's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's a great point.
We all need to be out there helping. I mean, this is such a powerful tool to be helping individuals.
Yeah.
Make some significant changes in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, if people want to learn more about you and what you do, what's the best way for them to learn more about you or get in touch with you?
JonesHypnosis.com is my website, JonesHypnosis.com. They can read a little bit about me. They can get out there. They can also find me out on Facebook. I have a Facebook page. It's Doug Jones-Hypnotist. Doug Jones-Hypnotist. And they can find me out there on Facebook and like that page also.
That's great. That's great. Doug, thank you so much for making time with me. This was a real pleasure.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for the invite.
All right. We'll see you in August.
You have a great time.
All right. Bye-bye.